Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
The C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast would like to put out a statement to say that we're very disappointed in a lot of different things.
Ain't that the truth?
We're going to get into, obviously, the suspension, NHL Department of Player Safety stuff and what have you. But if you've sort of not been following along, when the NHL made its decision, one of the aggrieved parties felt it was unnecessary to release a statement sharing their profound disappointment with life and things. And outside of Edmonton, like in the entire hockey universe, people were like, what?
Yeah, on a week where Canucks lost to the one of the worst teams in the league, and still Edmonton somehow managed to out-embarrass them.
Yeah, it was something. But the Vancouver Canucks, did give Edmonton a run for their money in the embarrassment factor. We'll get into the week that was. Although, I mean, I say embarrassing. Let's be honest. They're good for one game a week, it seems, right now.
Yeah, just Saturdays. I also wish I could only had to work one day a week.
Yeah, it would be nice. Everyone's getting traded. We're making fun of the fact that it was possible that JT Miller could very well have been traded over the course of our last episode. That could actually still be the case over this episode. Yeah. But now everyone's getting traded. All sorts of stuff. Crazy stuff. Talk about that. Oh, man. So much to talk about. But how have you been, Anna?
I've been okay. Actually, I've been pretty good. Outside of hockey. Outside of having to go to the Buffalo game. Yeah, I had a pretty good week. Trying to think what on earth I did. I think I went to dinner, and then hurt my ankle. So it doesn't sound spectacular, but
at dinner, what kind of dinner?
No.
Did you have to go out and find your own bow and arrow style or something?
No, I hurt my ankle playing netball, and then played netball on it again because I'm smart that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the competitive spirit.
And yeah, it was very hockey player of me, actually, playing through pain. But yeah, overall good. How about you?
I don't remember at all anything this week. That's how busy I was. I think I've shared with the show. I mean, I can't remember. I'm old. Day before she'd be registered for everything under the sun. So like every day of the week, there's like something going on. And on some days of the week, many things going on. So, keeps everyone out of
I was also that kid all the way through till 18, but I guess at least as a teenager, I was making my own way to things.
Yeah, she hasn't reached that teenage stage yet. We still got a decade to go. And, well, I mean, in theory, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, less than that.
But, keys of the car, decade to go. The thing about, though, is that, and I imagine most parents can relate to sort of what I'm sharing. It's not a me thing. It's just a parent thing. It's what we do. What do the Vancouver Canucks do? Sometimes show up, sometimes not. We'll get into the fact that the Edmonton Oilers aren't happy with hugs. At least their fans aren't. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about what transpired in that, one game at home, the one that you really got to enjoy. Actually, there were two games, but there was the weird, home, away, away forever, kind of NHL scheduling at its best. And we'll sort of prognosticate, what does this road trip mean for the ailing Vancouver Canucks? All that and more, but let's rewind first. How surprised were you that the NHL handed down a 3-game suspension to Tyler Myers and a 3-game suspension to Connor McDavid?
I was shocked and shooketh. I mean, we talked about this already, that I was just like, it was cute that you thought they were getting the same punishment, but they did. The NHL was sensible for once. I've heard some very even-handed people say maybe should have been 2 games for each rather than 3. I like the 3 because I do think cross-checking to the face should be discouraged. Tyler Myers admitted that he wasn't really thinking about it, and, that's not good. Faces and heads are precious, so, yeah, I'm okay with them going a little harder. And, yeah, I was surprised they actually went and punished McDavid to the full extent that he should be. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't. And I will admit that maybe I started to hedge my bet a little bit, having spoken to you and had this conversation. But like, my gut was, by Myers contributing to the antics after, Connor Garland gave Connor McDavid a hug, I felt that required the NHL to now punish McDavid more. I was going to say more harshly, but maybe in a harsh manner they would have not done had it not been needing to have kept it equal. Anyhow, you're right. I think there are some out there that suggest maybe 3 games was too much, should have been 2. I've heard people suggest it should only be 1 each. But what's interesting is that, again, outside of Edmonton, the vast majority of people are of the opinion what was assessed was fair. Now, fair in the context of whatever their opinion of the number of games should be, but it was that it was equal, and that was what was important.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people in Edmonton not of the same opinion. Obviously, you'd expect fans to react that way. Like, not at all shocking that fans were saying, like, our poor Prince, King of the World, Connor McDavid should be given free reign to do as he chooses.
He's a star in the league, right? Protect the stars.
And once again, we have said this so many times. We do think they should be protected, not that they should be given free reign to do what they want. Yes, like, everyone freely admits it was a missed call on Connor Garland's holding, but literally, that's the kind of S-housery you do, and Connor Garland in particular does, to win games. Would they have, there's an argument to say with 6 seconds left in the game, they wouldn't even have called it?
Well, so this is the other thing. People, and I'm generalizing here, but a good number of people, some who actually believe the cross-checking into the face issue with 3 games was fine, are of the opinion that it's the referee's fault for allowing it to get to that point. Edmonton possessed the puck in the offensive zone when Connor Garland was mugging McDavid.
Yeah.
There is no debate. Now, there is. There are some who have the opinion that it was McDavid mugging Garland, but I'm a Canucks fan.
Yeah,
I bleed blue and green. Garland was mugging McDavid.
Big time.
Yeah.
But, anything, that's what you want a player to do.
Yeah. How often do we see okay, you and I both soccer, football, the cynical foul, the tactical foul, they exist.
Yeah.
It happens.
Although, if you
accept punishment.
Miles Lewis Skelly, apparently, that gets you sent off.
So his off the rails here. Having seen the replay, it's his studs down the leg.
But oh my god, how many times that's happened more than once this weekend, and
I know,
no even yellows for it. Literally. Oh, anyway.
But therein lay the issue. It's the call on the field,
but
that
I don't know,
meets up the punishment.
Yeah, and we hate I really hate VAR, but it's really gotten to the point where VAR is just backing up their pals on the pitch. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on the rails.
What Garland did, give him 3 minors. What's going to change? The Edmonton Oilers don't score a goal.
Yeah.
And Connor Garland is sent to the box.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, or this is the thing. I don't understand what people want. Now, if you want the NHL to change the rules, who will have a referee whistle down the infraction, that's going to slow the game down.
Yeah.
Oh, we need a face-off? Well, we're going to take a penalty.
Yeah.
Let's stop play, right? It's not
which Connor Garland, of course, had in his head. So, yes, he was being a pest, but you cannot be cross-checking people in the face for holding you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time Connor McDavid learned that. Sorry, too many Connors.
Yeah. Anywho.
But yeah, the media exploded. Not just Edmonton media, mainly Edmonton media. But yeah, I think we all had a good laugh at it.
Yeah. Well, I think it was it Stables? I can't
Yeah.
remember which of the media members was like doing frame by frame analysis on Tyler Myers and
I think so. And then
I think it was the Oilers Nation podcast. Well, they had talked about Bouchard getting a slashing penalty, and why did he get a penalty? He didn't slash. If you watch the wide angle, him and Myers were going full, lumber on their shins, and then Myers decided to go lumber on the face. Like, it really seemed to be selective of what people from Edmonton were witnessing or had witnessed or seen. Anyhow, regardless, we'll talk more about the game on Thursday. But before we get there was the game on Tuesday at home against the Buffalo Sabres. So the Vancouver Canucks, I don't know. I don't want to say they didn't show up.
well, I think they did. They just showed up for the second period and decided that was sufficient.
Well, yeah, right. Like the first period, it was like two teams, poking at each other. There really wasn't any high event hockey.
Yeah, it was like it was dire. It was so boring.
Yeah. Second period, the Vancouver Canucks, and I mean, okay, Buffalo scores a goal in the first, whatever. But again, it wasn't like...
Okay, the most exciting thing about the first period is that Annalise got her wine in an actual glass, and she was so excited about that.
Wait, a wine glass in the stadium?
Well...
Were you sitting in the fancy seats?
That's where we sit now. We're in the Sportsnet lounge. Yeah.
Must be nice to be a baller.
Well, it's just not as rowdy or fun, but we get to see Murph and Co. do their thing, I guess.
Okay. But when the Vancouver Canucks roll out for the second period, they've decided, as you said, they're looking here to play hockey. They look dynamic. They look as if they have finally figured things out. Whatever was said in the dressing room woke them to their senses. PDG gets them on the board relatively early. And 5-ish minutes later, Petey, the first of two Peteys that we're going to talk about this week, gets them up 2-1.
Pedersen had a really great game. Even the first period, I would say he's one of the bright spots. And I was talking to friends in the second intermission thing. Oh yeah, he looks like he's figured it out, and everyone looks so engaged. This is good hockey. And then the third period.
Yeah, and the thing about the third period is the Vancouver Canucks looked less engaged until near the end, as they're apt to do.
Yes.
The goal, it's suddenly like, oh my God, we got to score. We're running a hockey. But the Vancouver Canucks blue line, which was already hurting with Myers, hurting much more without. And outside of Quinn Hughes having to play 60 minutes, and Ronick to some degree maybe backing that up with a 40-minute game of his own, a defensive miscue results in the fact that Peterka puts the team in, or the Buffalo Sabres in the lead.
Noted Canucks slayer, JJ Peterka.
And ultimately it turned out to be that's all she wrote. Thatcher Demko, it was his fourth consecutive start that game?
I believe so. Yeah. I'm all supportive of, especially when you don't have these back-to-back
games. They
games.
didn't have Lankinen. Seeloff's was the backup.
Yes,
so
because I think
Demko,
Lankinen's body was leaving
things behind.
Leaving through various orifices.
Yes, that's the clinical term. I don't think you throw Seeloff's in.
No, absolutely not. And
game action.
It did seem, it's hard to say. I don't really know when Lankinen got sick. Probably somewhere on the weekend when JT Miller, a few members of the media, Rick Tocchet also got sick. But I do think they are trying to get Thatcher Demko's game back, but we're not at a stage anymore where we can do that. We need to put the goalie in who's really realistically going to give Canucks the best chance of winning. And we're talking about a Canucks that is not solid defensively whatsoever. And right now that's Kevin Lankinen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Canucks lose. Sets us up for a Thursday rematch against the Edmonton Oilers, this time in Edmonton. Lankinen was on the bench. He did make the trip. Seeloss went back to Abbotsford. Demko, however, got his 5th consecutive start. Demko did not look good this game. In fairness to Demko, very few Vancouver Canucks came close to looking good. Zach Hyman gets Edmonton on the board early, and it felt to me like Edmonton was playing with an additional level of pace and energy. Maybe it's feeding off the crowd who are letting Connor Garland know that they don't like hugs. Maybe it's the fact that Draisaitl was just playing like a man possessed.
Without his buddy.
Right? Like, I don't know what it is.
And Corey Perry did Corey Perry things.
Well, I mean, Corey Perry did Corey Perry things sort of as the game progressed.
Yes.
In the first 6 minutes of the game, he wasn't doing Corey Perry.
Not yet.
But when Hyman scores that goal, the Vancouver Canucks actually rebounded. They sort of didn't completely stop Edmonton's momentum, but they showed that there was a pulse present.
Right. I have to say, I didn't see the first period, so I'm only going completely off highlights. So,
but then Vincent Desharnais decided to go and get himself on the score sheet. Problem, not by scoring goals. He took, is it 3? I think, like just piss poor penalties. This game, the first of which puts Edmonton on the power play, and I think it was like a second left because there was some debate as to whether or not it was a power play marker. But with Desharnais in the box, Draisaitl scores. Edmonton's up now 2-0, and 20 seconds later, before they've even announced that goal, Edmonton scored again, and that was all she wrote. Like, the Vancouver Canucks pretty much tapped out the second period. They got 4 shots on net. Edmonton, however, got 4 goals, or sorry, not 4 goals, 2 goals. So there were 4 goals in the second.
Yeah.
But as much as I'm saying Vancouver's tapped out with their 4 shots on net in the second period, the fact that Calvin Pickard wasn't getting any shots meant he had forgotten that he was still in the game. And Vancouver had started the comeback, so to speak. They narrowed the lead to 4-2. Brock Besser and Philip Hronek in relatively quick succession.
Right.
Did you think they had a chance at that point?
I mean, so this is when I tuned in, was midway through the second.
Oh, so you're seeing the Canucks of old. Like, this is last season. This is the moment where it's like, oh, the Vancouver Canucks are going to find a way to win this one. Down 4-0. That's okay. No lead is insurmountable. I
will say that, like, the vibe of the commentary was not to that effect, so I kind of got the message fairly, like, early that, like, this was probably not going to happen. Yeah. So I listened to the rest of the second, and I think I watched the third.
Well, actually, before you continue there, the other thing I guess I failed to mention is this is where Corey Perry started to do Perry things. He got 2 minutes for roughing for putting Quinn Hughes into a headlock and performing the DDT.
What is the DDT? Please tell.
Essentially, it's where you take a player and you sort of over top and into the ground. It's a wrestling move. Like if you watch, Garland's paying his penance, and Perry goes and finds Hughes and proceeds to go and I don't know why it's only roughing. Like it was egregious. I'm not going to say it's something that he would be suspended for.
No. But
there was no reaction from a Canuck.
Yes.
I would have been okay if Demko had just skated around and go Marc-Andre Fleury on Perry.
Yeah, because Corey Perry's been in the league for a million years. We know what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
And we know what kind of player he is.
He's a master of dark arts.
But this isn't, I kind of have mixed feelings when people talk about, standing up for a teammate that's getting rough around, because sometimes the best revenge is on the scoreboard, right?
And the Canucks weren't about to do that. Or they did, but that's not what they were scoring those goals for.
Right. The thing is, when you're, soundly beating a team and they try to get you involved in nonsense by roughing up a player, I'm okay with the Canucks staying out of it. but this is not what was happening.
I was going to say, in that moment where Quinn Hughes is just on his own.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was it? That was the code. You went after our captain. We're going to go after yours.
Yeah.
If he just hugged him and was harassing him, I have no complaints. That is going to exist in the game. But what Perry did to Hughes was arguably worse than what Garland did. And okay, and Canucks bias here, but it's hard to suggest what Garland did to McDavid could have put McDavid into harm's way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even care about one versus the other. It's just that is your captain, that's your leader, that is your best player by a long way. He's suffered so much for this team, and just do something. Clearly you're not going to win this game, but do something.
There were some that suggested later on in the game when Teddy Bluger went after Perry that he was trying to do something. I'm not going to suggest that that's what Bluger was trying
but
to get
at least it was something.
Well, okay. First of all, what Bluger did was more as a result of what had happened to him, and Perry dummied him something terrible to throw the gloves around.
Yeah,
it was. If you watch Perry, he shakes his hands.
Yeah,
but he keeps his gloves on and the Canucks would have been going on a power play, but then Bluger, gets the roughing call because he goes and punches Perry in the face a few times.
And I'm sure as an Edmonton fan, you're just thinking, yeah, he's a pest, but he's our pest, and that's the kind of S-housery you want to see. But just the way that Perry has consistently spoken about, the code, the honor, doing the right thing, since the refs won't protect our stars, we'll protect our stars. I will sort of go to bat for my teammates. The opposite of that what Canucks have done, and then pulls that. And I know a lot of Edmonton fans sort of were, going at Canucks reporters for saying that was weak and lame because the game was so terrible, and it was. Don't get me wrong, and Canucks reporters know that more than anyone, that effort was lame. But you can still call out Corey Perry for being an a-hole.
Oh yeah. And I'm not. I understand the Vancouver Canucks have had players of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
Good teams generally find those players and have them. I just think with Perry, that's all he's got left in his game.
Right.
It's that part is where I feel.
And let's be honest, he's not the only one in the league. Ryan Reeves, what is he doing apart from endangering players' health and giving interviews whilst he's sat down on his stool calling out people? I don't like to see those players anymore, I'll be honest. It's boring. I'm sure Canucks have had their fair share of them over the years, but players that do nothing but that, it's lame.
Yeah. And I need to correct myself. It was actually 5-0 before the Canucks, started to storm back with 2 goals. But
yes.
Kapanen, put icing on the cake midway through the third. But the game was done. The Vancouver Canucks essentially lost the second period.
Also,
anyway,
do we know what really happened with the Mark Freeman thing? Why he got a misconduct?
I think he must have said something to someone.
Yeah.
And I don't. My guess, because when it occurred, it was early in the third, but I am of the opinion that it was a game management. So Friedman must have said something to an Oiler or to the Oilers bench. I mean, I'm guessing here.
But he got a 10-minute misconduct. He came back. Not that anything happened, but something could have.
True. But they couldn't match.
No,
he didn't say something that would have been worth a match.
But I don't know. I just Mark Freeman is a guy that does usually stand up for his teammates, and he's trying to make his mark on the NHL, and that's a way to do it. So yeah, I was curious about that, but besides the point, really.
Oilers fans are of the opinion that they've exacted revenge, and Connor Garland is the worst player in the league. Should have been thrown out of the league years ago. He's evil. Whereas I actually got amusement and joy out of the fact that every time Garland got the puck, the fans just booed him incessantly.
Like I mean, I think Connor Garland is actually living his best life. Home fans chanting his name, away fans booing him. He's like an undersized
What I really would have loved to have seen is Garland score a goal.
That would have been
and
great.
what he may have done in celebration.
Yeah.
Anyhow, didn't happen. Vancouver Canucks lost. That meant they came limping back home to take on the Washington Capitals, a team who is having a heck of a run with a guy who's 120 years old in Ovechkin, who's likely going to break Wayne Gretzky's goal scored record probably next season. I mean, he's still got enough hockey that it could happen.
We'll see.
And he had like 100 shots on Saturday, so
but yes,
the Capitals are definitely trying to get it for him.
Playoff goals don't count, so we'll see. I mean, I did joke with a friend of the show, Sam Chang, that he like the only thing to look forward to on the Saturday night game that she was going to was what if Ovi scores all 20 in that game. So
hey, Wayne Gretzky set many records against the Vancouver Canucks. They're an obliging host. The thing about this, though, is that the Vancouver Canucks came out like the team that we have seen glimpses of this season, but saw quite a bit of last year. And this is despite all of the drama that's been taking place outside of the actual rink. We failed to talk about the fact that Patrick Allvin had an unannounced press conference where essentially he came out and said, lots of noise. I hate the rumors.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Like, I tuned into that during a very busy period at work because I thought something might happen.
Well, because it was like, hey, Alvin's having a press conference at like 10:45 or 11:15 or whatever the heck time it was. It was not a planned event.
Yeah.
It got added.
By the way, like, I really, like, I've talked about, like, this a lot over the years about, like, snotty media coverage. And I really hated all the reporters saying, or the few reporters afterwards that were saying, I don't know who expected, like, Mulveen to say something or address, like, these rumors. It's very normal to have a mid-season press conference. So-and-so had one the other day. This was an unscheduled one, like you say, and, like, after, like, weeks of this, I didn't expect him to say anything that hadn't been finalized. You know, you're never expecting him to be like, we're working on some deals, but, like, I haven't decided yet, like, but, yeah.
And sort of, fast forward from his press conference to then the deal that went down on Friday between Carolina,
deal.
Chicago, and Colorado.
All the C's.
Yeah.
All the C's.
Yeah, all the C's. Sorry, I thought you said whoopsies. I'm like, which of those teams did I get wrong?
Whoopsies indeed, but no, not for that reason.
So Carolina has been one of the teams in on the JT Miller conversation and allegedly the Elias Pettersson conversation. But, all of this has been going on. People have now come to believe, okay, well, Carolina's out of the mix. That might only leave the Rangers for Miller, but who knows what else is going on. Friend of the show, Cam Robinson, shared a couple of his thoughts, but also comments based on things he's heard. He was of the opinion that the Vancouver Canucks and Carolina had actually had a deal in place for Pettersson, and that deal would have been more expensive than what the Rantanen acquisition cost happened to be. But Carolina had decided to go in a different direction. Cam goes on to further say, if Pettersson is moved, I expect JT to be moved at some point as well, and he wants out. And appears to be dried on the situation. If you're dealing both of them, what about Besser, Demko, Quinn?
Like, surely, how do you expect? I mean, Quinn and Petey share an agent. Like,
well, okay. So,
not that necessarily means anything, but like that amplifies, I think.
If you sell or you trade, or you, like, JT Miller's gone, Elias Pettersson's gone, Besser, he's a free agent.
Yeah.
And Alvin had commented that we're not close. Yeah, because you either don't want to pay, and two, can't really afford him.
Yeah, but like, say they get rid of Miller and Petey, and don't retain that much in salary, and then like you
Besser?
can re-sign Besser. Okay. That's not enough to keep Quinn happy, surely.
But this is the thing,
and I'm sure he loves Brock, but
no, and then like the Demko comment, people are like, why would you trade Demko? I think we have to come to understand that Demko that we knew is not the Demko of today.
And
That's
maybe
not to suggest Demko's
gone.
he's gonna find his game. I just don't think his game is going to be the same.
I agree. I do think he gets better from
Papa
here.
Hootie muscle.
Yeah, I do think he gets better from here, but I don't think he's the same.
Yeah. So then come down to Quinn, and what Cam is suggesting is that when Quinn becomes a free agent, what are you selling him on as to the future?
He's already aged 150 years in the time since he took the captaincy. Like,
but Quinn, who, is all that a bag of chips in the entire box in the warehouse, proceeds to go and show why he is so important to the future of the Vancouver Canucks by scoring not one, but two beautiful goals against the Washington Capitals. Quinn Hughes was like playing like a man possessed. And this is a kid who currently has mankind's mandible claw on his hand.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be affecting him whatsoever.
No, but I mean, that's how good he is. And it was talked about a lot in the intermission on Saturday that, like, Quinn is the only untouchable on this team. And it's funny, like, we're going back. Like, we used to say Petey was the only untouchable on the team. And then it became Quinn. And now it's just like, Quinn, we fall apart without Quinn.
Boy, Norris Trophy winner, potentially in the running again this season
for the Hart.
Yeah.
Quick question.
He won't get the Hart.
I mean, I kind of agree, but do you agree with the panelists' thoughts, especially Kevin Bieksa, and Elliot Friedman? And I think, weirdly, I signed with Cully Hrudi on this, which I don't think I've ever done. That he shouldn't get the Hart if they don't make the playoffs.
So,
just philosophically, not to do with what you think will happen or how you think riders will vote. Okay,
so to me, like, again, we've had this conversation. Most valuable player should be to their team.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what the Hart Trophy happens to be.
That's how it's written.
Now, I don't disagree with the sentiment that you need to make the playoffs, because there are many playoff teams that if you were to take a player out of, like, one player out of that roster, they're not a playoff team. And if you take the Quinn out of the Canucks, they're still not a playoff team. Like, there's the delta isn't significant. You're either in it or you're not.
Well, that's how the playoffs work. But
that's why I agree. But where I start to disagree is when you have those who suggest, defensemen have their own trophy.
Well, that's insane.
Right?
But look at the numbers. The numbers just bear it out. The Canucks, without Quinn Hughes on the ice.
You don't have to convince me.
But, to me, that's what the Hart is. I
agree.
Quinn Hughes has made the Canucks the best they could possibly be. Whether that's enough,
still not good at
whether that's enough to make the playoffs, I think is separate.
Yeah, and that's I should qualify my comment. That's not on Quinn.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how bad this team would be without him?
Yes, exactly.
No, because that is a world of nightmares.
Yes, I'm touching all the wood I can. Well, please don't take that out of context. Just
you heard it here first. Anna's touching all the wood.
But yeah, long story short, to me,
big wood, small wood.
Yeah.
All the wood.
William Lockwood.
Hi, Anna's mom.
Yeah, hi, mom. Yeah, to me, I've kind of talked about this a lot, but almost if by definition the Hart should be for one of the mediocre teams, where if you take their best player out, they would be basement dwellers.
Okay, I'll sign up with whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah, Ovechkin's great, record-setting season, all of that. He was injured for the longest stretch of his career, and the Capitals did just fine.
Yeah. Speaking of the Capitals, talking a little bit about the game, the Vancouver Canucks played some really good hockey. Lankinen was standing on his head.
Yep.
He was channeling Blankinen. So when, PLD scores that goal to make it 2-1.
Who else but PLD, by the way?
Was it squeaky bum time?
It was squeaky bum time. Everything was clenched.
Actually, I think was it Ferraro or Short? I think it was, they actually referred to squeaky bum time during the game.
Do hockey people know what that is now?
Well, no, that it had to be explained.
Yeah.
Man, I heard it this weekend, and I'm, oh my god. Anyhow,
but if you don't know, that's a football term for just. I think Alex Ferguson came up with it. Maybe
it's from the old country. But the point is that when PLD scores that goal, oh no, like I've seen this story far too many times before.
I've seen this film before. I didn't like the ending.
2 really good periods. But then there's a part of me who's also like, this means they're going to pull their goaltender. Maybe Quinn can score a 3rd goal.
Yay, Quinn Hattie.
He didn't. Quinn wasn't even on the ice for the final shift of the game.
Yeah. I mean,
which I don't understand. Like he was on the ice for a good portion of that sort of final minute. But the last shift where there's 2.5 seconds, Quinn's not on the ice.
Yeah. I mean, finally give him a break. I don't know.
There were 2 PDs.
There were 2 PDs. Yeah.
Elias Pettersson was singled out by the Capitals coach at the end of the game as being one of the reasons the Vancouver Canucks won that game.
Fair enough. I mean, I think he had a good game. He definitely didn't look out of place. And I think he is imposing physically, which I'm sure was noted. But yeah, really pleased for him. He's been having a really solid season in Abbotsford. I do think it's interesting that obviously really want him to succeed, but also the All-Star game is next weekend. So do we want him to succeed that much? It used to be Christian Willanen. I swear he's gone to every single All-Star game since Abbotsford started, so he wasn't necessarily someone who was in danger of being called up. So that's a little spanner in the works, but
the PD fancy stats were superb. He had arguably one of his better games in a while.
And
on
the
opposite
Canucks
side of the spectrum, JT Miller not so much.
No,
which is interesting because I felt Miller actually didn't play poorly, but the metrics did not back up what my eyeballs were telling me.
I was thinking that he was not having a great game, and when he blocked a few shots in the last 2 minutes and got a lot of praise from the commentary, I was just like, well, those are very obvious visual things you can do when you've had a poor game, is to throw yourself in front of the puck, and still, it's good. I'm glad he did it, but yeah, it seemed to be more desperation moves. I mean, that penalty he took in the first period, the interference where he was just like,
well, it was a bad penalty, like completely out of the play.
Just why did you think you had to do that? Red card for JT Miller.
He played some decent minutes. 1946 over the course of the game, the most of any forward.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously you get.
4 minutes more than PD.
The more minutes you play, weaknesses exposed, etc. So I wasn't appalled by his game or anything, but yeah, I didn't love it. Are we going to talk about the Lindgren save?
Sorry, I almost forgot about that. It wasn't a save. It was a 7-4-3 double play.
I have no idea what that means.
Shortstop to second, or no, 6-4-3. Double play. So yeah, Lindgren's coming out of the net for the extra attacker.
I think he seems to take it on his own initiative to do that, because he was just like, am I going? Am I going? Am I going?
Yeah. And I think it was PDG who got the puck on a giveaway and wired a phenomenal shot off the ice towards the net. It was going to be a goal, and Lindgren comes diving over, makes an unbelievable catch, stops himself from going into the no-go zone.
Yeah.
Right? And then gets the puck up the play. And the way I reacted, Marnie thought the Canucks scored a goal.
I mean, Lindgren's making headlines this year. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it was a phenomenal piece of athleticism. I was surprised when they talked about it. No one brought up Kevin BX's amazing save in that. Do you remember that game against the Colorado Avalanche?
I don't.
Okay.
But if I saw a replay, I'd be like, oh yeah, I totally remember this.
Empty net. He's like, Colorado fire a shot on the empty net. He has to make a diving stop. Nowhere near as impressive. Like, it wasn't in the air, it was on the ice, but like, he has to dive down. Kevin Bieksa single-handedly brings the puck up, passes it off. 2 passes later, he gets it back, and scores the game-tying goal in the dying seconds. 2-2.
Don't remember.
Fellow Kevin Bieksa stands, please tell me you know what I'm talking about. But yes, I might just have to post the YouTube of that in our Discord.
So yeah, if you haven't seen the Langton save, or not Langton's save, Langton made a lot of saves. Lindgren's save.
Yeah.
Do look at it. So the Vancouver Canucks get the 2 points at home. They don't lose on Saturdays because Saturday night's for winning, as you have given me as a potential title. But the Vancouver Canucks do head out on the road before coming back to play at home next Sunday. Game tonight, 4:30 p.m. Pacific puck drop against the St. Louis Blues. This game will be on Amazon Prime. They then travel to Nashville for a 6 p.m. Pacific puck drop against the Preds on Wednesday. And then they wrap up their road trip in Dallas with a 5 p.m. Pacific puck drop on Friday. And then they come home to start another homestand on Feb 2nd, a 5 p.m. in the afternoon game against the Detroit Red Wings. So Vancouver Canucks have 4 games over the course of the week.
Mm-hmm.
What say you, Anna?
4 games. Okay. Obviously, they're much better on the road. This is an obvious statement of fact. Do you think they get some buoyancy? That won't be enough to beat Dallas, that's for sure, and I don't think they beat Detroit on a Sunday, so I'm going to say 4. 4 points.
So the 4 points, are you telling me that they're going to get 2 points against the Blues and 2 points against the Preds?
Yeah. And honestly, they might get a loser point against Detroit, but they definitely lose in Dallas, I say.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay. So the Vancouver Canucks are on the road. Road trips are generally good to the Vancouver Canucks. I'm going to give them a win against the Blues. I feel that they'll find a way to lose to the Predators.
Just because they like losing to the Predators?
Correct. But then where I go a little bit different you is I feel they'll get a win against Dallas.
Just because they only show up against the good teams?
Right. And then they're going to come home and lose to the Red Wings.
I mean, this is all solid logic, so I can't necessarily disagree with you.
So, I mean, we're both giving them 4 points.
Yeah.
But, I just don't feel that the home record is it. It's an earlier game. It's not on a Saturday, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Detroit Red Wing is a definite trap game.
But yeah, it is crazy to think that the Canucks' 2 best games, maybe in the last month, have been against
Toronto. And Washington.
Toronto, Washington, and then Edmonton, you'd say, like for 3? Yeah.
Sandwiched in between.
What? Flying. Something.
Well, you know what the fuzz is? We're taking a break. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
As we discussed in a rewind, Demko got a good number of starts. Obviously, Lankinen was under the weather, so Lankinen could not come and relieve the the strain that Demko was facing. He comes back in on Saturday, stands on his head. That is the Lankinen that we have grown accustomed to. We've not really spoken about it on the podcast, but there are a fair number of people who have actually posed the question, do the Vancouver Canucks look to re-sign Lankinen as a definitive 1A, 1B? And does having Lankinen under a contract potentially allow for you to, throw a Demko out on a line and see if there's any bites?
I mean, would be unfathomable. Unfathomable? Is that how you say that word?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Unfathomable.
A year ago to say that. It would be unfathomable, like, at the end of last season to say that, but like, Demko's been injury prone, and this injury seems to have really taken its toll. He isn't back
because his Papaludi muscle is...
Yeah, his Greek muscle, whose name we cannot pronounce. Yeah, like, he's been quick to say it's nothing to do with his injury. He needs to be better. And I'm sure it's partly, it is mainly just, needing to be, not to do with his injury. But,
well, it's not that this has anything to do with his injury holding him back. It's that I think he's having to change his game. The game he has established and defined the muscle memory around. Yeah. That's what's needing adjustment, and that takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight. Whereas before, he could rely on his polyamorous weasel muscle.
Yes,
and it wasn't a problem.
I mean, I do think his game was remodeled, to some extent before when he made the NHL. He was, I don't know, he didn't look great as a backup, I would say, and the strides he took when he became a starter was huge. Sort of over the bubble playoffs and beyond. But, so it's not like he hasn't done it before. But, he's an older guy now. He's been through substantial injury. Yeah. Like you say, I do think he will improve, but I don't know if it'll be good enough and quick enough for the Canucks this season.
So, Kevin Lankinen, ride or die?
I mean, he's pretty happy here. He does seem to want to commit here. He took a 1-year contract because he was...
Well, it was a show-me deal. He was on... he needed a contract.
Exactly.
So he wanted to stay in the NHL.
But he's shown up. He has shown. Yeah. Obviously, he's going to want a raise, and he's going to want term, which is tricky on the Canucks' current budget. So I really think it's just going to be, we have to figure out the other pieces first. But I think Canucks are very keen, and I think they should be. And in terms of this season and playing him, I think at the moment you have to give Canucks the best chance to win. And that, at the moment, is prioritizing or playing Lankinen more.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm on the ride or die on Lankinen just yet, but I feel in the situation of a 1A, 1B, he's no longer the B, he's definitively the A in that conversation until he sort of shows otherwise. If the Vancouver Canucks do get to that point where they have to go and push down on that Acme brand detonator to blow things up.
I see.
Yeah,
I got it.
I would put money on Lankinen over Demko.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on Demko. I kind of feel that if you're going to blow things up, Demko maybe ties you down more than what Lankinen would.
Yeah.
Sort of the longer term. I'm not advocating blow up this team. I really don't want this team to blow up. I want this team to figure its stuff out, get along, and everyone to be happy.
Bake a cake full of rainbows and get along like we used to in middle school.
Yes. Well, so my daughter has a theory on why the Vancouver Canucks aren't doing well. It's because people aren't the players are not being nice to each other.
Yes.
And they need to be kinder.
I would agree.
And it's hard to argue with her logic here.
I mean, everyone should be kinder in general, but yes, I would agree that the Canucks need to be kinder to each other, especially to Quinn.
Yeah. So the deal that we talked about in Rewind It Went Down was potentially on the table for the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for Petey. Would you have gone that route?
Like Nate Chess for Petey, essentially.
Like I think we as Canucks fans have to understand the Vancouver Canucks are not negotiating from any form of strength, even in a Petey deal. There's not a negotiation of strength here. So the deals are going to suck.
Yeah, I would say no. Like, I mean, we're both kind of on the same mind. I think trading Petey is such a huge mistake at this point over, like, I'd rather not be in this position where we have to trade Petey or Miller, but I think we're at a crossroads here, and I think Miller needs to move on at this point.
Well, if you are hearing the latest, Miller has told the team he needs to move on.
Right. And, like, Carolina, by all accounts, were pretty interested.
I don't know if they were interested in Miller.
I think that's... other insiders have said they were, just not... They got a better offer.
Well, okay. There are a few people who I respect who believes Tulski went and played some 5D chess.
Oh, and, like, Tulski is a smart guy, but, like...
Like, their interest in Miller was to generate interest elsewhere.
And, like...
That there was more interest in Petey. Like, of the two, they wanted Petey.
Every single team in this league would want Pedersen. Like, that's just, like, obvious. Who knows? The game's, like, obviously I'm very familiar with Jamie Vardy, like, playing Arsenal, like, fiddled in order to get a raise from Leicester. How did that work out, Jamie? Anyway.
But how old is Jamie Vardy? 48 now? Or?
100? I'm not sure.
I mean, Leicester, how long ago was it that, Leicester won the league?
That was 2015.
Okay, I was going to say, like, 20 years ago. I know, 10 years ago. But the point is, that was the first time I'd ever heard of Jamie Vardy's name, was that season.
He's played in every division in every professional division. He started in non-league. It was all very impressive, but yeah, I do not enjoy him as a person. Anyway, yes, I'm familiar with that game, and I think Tulski is really smart hockey mind. Oh my god, how many times did I have to read, did you know he's never played a game in the NHL? How is it possible that he's a good business mind?
I mean, he obviously doesn't know of the code.
Yeah, like, holy smokes. Anyway, he's super smart. But I just think he would have had the, like, conversation and just been like, Miller, very good player still. Is there a fit? What can you do for us to make this work? And then, sort of saw the offer and said, you know what? I'm smarter than this. I can get a better offer. I can fleece GM Kyle in Chicago.
Okay, so this a little off the rails again, but at least related to hockey. So Chicago does give up Taylor Hall in his contract, but they retain, was it 50% of Rantanen's contract, and they get a pick.
Yeah, it's insane how shortchanged they are.
A third round pick or something
I
like
think,
that.
Did they get 2 picks? But either way, like, very cheaply bought off for paying the privilege of paying Rantanen's salary, or half his salary.
Well, no, but that's the part that I don't understand. Like, I get the 3-way deal because it's about the cap world. Like, you need to go and adjust contracts in such a way that everything fits within the cap. That part I understand.
Yeah.
But when you're the team in the middle,
like, surely you're facilitating
everything.
So, like, milk that. I don't understand it either. Bring back Connor Bedard. Bring him home. He's lost and scared.
Yeah, anyhow, I'm not a Chicago Blackhawks fan. I'll never be a Chicago Blackhawks fan. I could care less if the Chicago Blackhawks as an organization were to be folded tomorrow.
Yes, my only investment in Chicago Blackhawks is that my cousin's kid is a huge Blackhawks fan, and he's a hockey nut. So
that's too bad that he chose that team.
I know he lives in Chicago, so what you gonna do? But yeah.
Anywho, the thing about it though is that deal where there was the potential of it being Petey on the way out for Neckesh and whatever, tied the Vancouver Canucks slightly and allegedly had impaired their ability to maybe act on other things.
Yeah.
But what is very well understood is that what teams were offering for JT Miller was pennies on the dollar, and the Vancouver Canucks are of the opinion that we need to get more than pennies.
Yeah, and
but I don't think they will get more than pennies unless you're Paul Bissonnette, who I want to talk about in a moment.
I will just say, like, if they're able to get something better for JT Miller in the offseason, fine, great. But if they're hanging around for this magic deal that they're going to get for this player that they're desperate to get rid of, who is over 30 on an $8 million deal and is known to have alienated players in the locker room, like, news for you, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm referring to and what you had just talked about. So Paul Bissonnette apparently ran into Francesco Aquilini at Elisa or whatever, the Aquilini's restaurant. And he told Francesco, hey, man, you don't trade a player like JT Miller until the offseason. There'll be a greater market. More teams will want in on the action. Now, whether or not that story is true.
And like Aquilini actually asking for his advice.
Well, okay. So this is the thing. When this story had come out, there was, I would say, probably a 50-50 split. Is there any truth to this? Like, what's going on? Why would you even listen to a player like this? Having read all of these sort of books about the Vancouver Canucks and so on and so forth. So Ed Willis's book, Never Boring. I just wrapped up reading Brian Burke's book, Burke's Law. If there's something about Vancouver owners since McCaw, which isn't a lot, you get McCaw, Aquilini. So they listen to people, but the people they listen to are not always the best people to be listening to. And while Ed Willis doesn't come out and say this definitively, nor does Burke in his book, what's interesting is the transition of sort of GMs that's occurred over the course of the Canucks' recent history occurred because an owner spoke to someone.
Yeah. I mean,
and it would be someone of like a Paul Bissonnette.
Right. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. Caliber. Like, this team, not just this team, this whole town is basically run by like 5 Italian families. Like, Vancouver is like a small town masquerading as a big city, and with their one team and hockey being the small world that it is, the fact that this could happen and is plausible is embarrassing, but like also true, like possibly true, right?
So, I mean, Ed Willis talks about, what if the Beatties and Gillardis won the court case? He doesn't have an opportunity to talk to the Gillardis, though he sort of surmises that when you look at how, Tom Gillardi has run the Dallas Stars since purchasing them, it's very much involved, but the front office is very stable, and the people that are in the front office are considered very bright. What's interesting in this, though, is he does sit down and talk with Ryan Beatty. And Ryan Beatty was not so much in on the hockey part, like he wasn't sort of a big a fan as Sir Francesco happened to be, or Tom Gillardi happened to be, but his sort of positioning of how, you run an organization, you run an operation. Like, he would have been like the wise person.
Right.
Who would have not been the one who, I ran into Biz and he told me we should, trade JT in the off season.
And that's
like, it wouldn't resonate with.
But the thing is, like, ownership should be allowed to have those conversations. And then the ownership comes and tells the GM or the president, hey, Paul's Bissonnette told me this. And then you go, okay, Francesco, very good. Have a little coffee. Bye-bye now.
I feel Jim Rutherford will do that.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I'll bet you deals probably still need ownership sign-off.
I know. But, like, it's just, like, I think there is a certain art to keeping your ownership think that they're doing something when really they should be signing the checks.
But you know, let's how do any of these trades get Quinn help?
I mean, no, I think
does trading PP help Quinn if you
possibly
happen to get a first line blue liner, a second line blue liner that should be on the first line?
Possibly in the short term, but realistically, overall, no. Like,
yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, like
a JT Miller deal is not going to help Quinn.
No,
unless it's the.
But before all this blew up, we were talking
season of the drama.
Yeah, yes, but before all this blew up, all we were talking about was Quinn needs help on the blue line. So, like, that still remains the case, whether this happens with JT Miller and PD deals. It's not going to. But, like, that still needs to be Canucks' priority is dealing with this situation, this locker room situation, and then the next priority in terms of business, ins and outs, needs to be on the blue line. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Anyhow, as of this moment in recording, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, neither have been traded. Demko, still a Vancouver Canuck as far as we know. Hopefully there's no cold open to correct myself before this episode goes live. Here we are, hour in. Time to wrap things up. Vancouver Canucks are heading out on the road. Anna and I both said they're going to get 4 points over the course of that 3-game road trip with the 1 game at home before we record another episode. And when we do record the next episode, that Detroit game should probably be in the bag, so we can either moan and groan or celebrate the fact that you and I know nothing.
Which we will gladly celebrate.
Yeah. But big news, Anna. I don't know if you heard. We got another supporter through Buy Me a Coffee, or what is it you and I like to call it?
Buy me a pint.
So if you had not heard, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. You can throw a few dollars our way. If you contribute a one-off, that is truly buying us a pint or two. But there are a handful of pretty cool people who elect to support us on a monthly or annual basis. And shout out to Sean Smith, a friend of the show, for committing to us on a monthly basis. I mean, he's already thrown a few pints our way.
And before that, he has also maybe bought me a few pints in person as well.
You didn't tell me.
But this was, unrelated to the show. But yes, thank you, Sean. It's great to have you on board. And yes.
I have to get him a sticker.
Yeah.
Does he already, I mean, is this like, would he have one of the buttload of stickers you took home?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I hadn't met Sean yet, and also he lives in Ireland, which, let's be very clear, is separate.
Preclude the ability of getting stickers.
No, but it is a separate place, very much.
And I'm not trying to imply it isn't, but you were the one who said he's bought you pints.
Yeah.
I just presume that was you and he got together to have pints. Or did he buy them?
This was in New York at the Cricket World Cup. That's how... Yeah. Oh. Anyway, long story short, thanks, Sean, for joining us. If anyone else wants to join us, you do get access to the Off the Rails episode. So
good fun, lots of good fun.
Yeah.
We talk about all sorts of things. You think Off the Rails during a big show is off the rails? An Off the Rails episode is off the rails.
Yeah. Last week we spoke about our
bunkers.
icks, and on that note, I'm sorry if any of you heard me blow my nose at any point. I'm kind of snotty today, so just be grateful, so, like you are, Chris.
In post, I'm going to put some, sound effects in, just random, like honking and whatnot.
Chris had to see me do it, so, thank you, Lucky Stars listeners. You only had to hear me.
If you want to take part in the conversation, for instance, talking about what the future holds with all of the smoke about Vancouver Canucks deals, C4 Discord is the place to have it. That's discord.io/C4 podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms. Blue Sky, we're at C4podcast.ca or .com, sorry. I just mix up that it's a .com. You can find us on Threads as The Real C4 Podcast and then The C4 Podcast on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Anna, any final words of wisdom for our listeners this week?
I mean, this is more just for you and our listeners because I don't think she listens, but lovely Chandler, who most people might know from Canucks Twitter, also I think mainly on Blue Sky these days, but she sent me these lovely Connor Garland bracelets that I'm showing off now. One says Garland and the other one says Tiny Prince. So
nice. I'm
very happy with those.
I follow Chandler.
Yes. Chandler Bing, I think is her, or Chan Bing is her Twitter and Blue Sky.
But that is it still Chan Bing? Because like I know I follow her.
She still has that. That is not her real surname, shockingly.
So. Interesting. Marnie had betta fish. One was named Chandler. The other one was Bing.
Of course.
She was big into Friends at the time. She also had Joey and Ross. Joey ate Ross. So.
Betta fish want to do that, I hear.
Yes, and she didn't think she had them in like separate containers, but Joey jumped over and.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh God.
She got up one morning. Ross was no more, and Joey was in Reese's tank.
I think I missed that episode.
Yeah. Pivot. Final words of wisdom from me. Don't put your Bitapesh next to each other in open containers, especially if it's males. Yeah. They get all pissy about, other flashy fish nearby. But on behalf of Annie, First Lady 303, myself, Chris at Lifeforce, signing off of this week's episode with We Out.